You're watching the Three and You Giant Fans podcast brought to you by Scott, Giant, Mike and Cardone. We're sponsored by Manscaped.com. Use code AGREYMAN to get a 20% discount and free shipping. And download our audio podcast at Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts from.
So that was Davis Webb and the call of him barreling over people, going in for the touchdown, and keeping Philly starters out there as long as possible. So he showed some grit. The Giants showed some grit, and you have to say, good ending to the season when you're resting your starters to get a game like that. Fun game to watch.
Yeah, I rather enjoyed myself. I almost didn't watch it because I was like, I don't want to see the Giants just get, taken apart and manhandled out there. But as I was just saying before we came on, it ended up being fun because, the announcers kept saying, the Eagles their stated goal was to get their starters out of there and, put up a number and get out of there. And now they pretty much, we had Jalen Hurts deep into the fourth quarter as an already injured player. I mean, that was pretty cool.
What a weird game, guys, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we kind of knew it going in, being locked in the 6th seed there, but it had like a preseason feel to it. Davis Webb is running around, which I didn't even know he was going to start. I thought it was Tyrod Taylor, but we'll talk a little bit about Davis Webb's I think performance. I was pretty impressed with the guy, but it was just a strange game. It was the opposite of what we thought was going to occur a few weeks ago, right? We're thinking the Giants are going to desperately need the Eagles starters to be sitting. They'd have the 1 seed wrapped up, and it was the complete opposite where we so it kind of we had the Grey Goose game the week before, but this was sort of a whole different kind of Grey Goose game. Just a strange game on all accounts.
So
Absolutely.
We are the Three Angry Giant Fans. This is your host, Scott, Giant, Mike, and Cardone. And before we get into Davis Webb and the Giants, let's give a shout out. So hello, Basking Ridge, New Jersey. It's in Somerset County, home of Verizon headquarters. And it was settled in 1720 by British Presbyterians escaping religious persecution, which Presbyterians are the most mild-mannered of religion. So I'm not sure exactly who was persecuting them. Sir, you're too friendly. We must burn you at the pitchfork. It's also the home or the birthplace of Meryl Streep and the other LT, which I always bristle when someone calls him LT, LaDainian Tomlinson.
Wow.
I didn't know Tomlinson was from Basking Ridge, New Jersey. Really?
Basking Ridge.
Didn't know that.
Meryl Streep. Huh? I didn't have her pegged as a Jersey girl.
She worked hard to lose the accent and the
yeah,
hair.
She's not. You think of the only other Jersey girls I really know are like Snooki and
I don't know.
JWoww. I don't know. I don't think Meryl Streep fits in with that crowd.
Definitely has kind of the attitude, I would say, though. Sort of that salty, Jersey girl kind of tude coming at you.
So guys, in the Philly game, our backups did hang close. I got to tell you, when I saw Davis Webb out there, now he had the beard and stuff, but his stature and the way he carried himself, he looked just like Kerry Collins, I thought, with a beard. It was eerie. There's sort of a little hitch on his throw.
Yeah. He looked familiar out there playing, and I wasn't putting my finger on it. And then, Scott sends over the text, like, doesn't he look like Kerry Collins? I'm like, oh my God, it is. It's Kerry Collins. A little bit, kind of a little hunched shoulders, a little bit, yeah.
I'll tell you who he didn't look like in terms of the stat sheet was Justin Fields. I mean, I have to throw this out right away. Davis Webb comes. Let's think about this. First career start. The guy hasn't seen any action, right? I think it was his first career start. Was it not, or was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And guy had 23 for what it's worth, right? The guy had 23 completions. I mean, shit, it would take Fields 3 weeks to get that.
Yeah, that 23 completions is 3 or 4 games. Yeah.
And you can say whatever you want, check downs, this and that. I mean, we'll get into a little bit of the action, but Kenny Golladay was on the field and making amazing touchdown catches. I was murdering him earlier in the game, just barking at him for not getting separation from even a blade of grass out there. But
even on the touchdown catch, I mean, he's blanketed. He does come down with the ball. I mean, a contested catch at least. But, geez, I mean, how many times does he run a route? And the defender almost looks like he's having a Grey Goose coverage. He's he's holding the glass, batting away passes.
The ice is shaking in the glass.
He's like, oh, I'm covering Golladay. I don't even need to I don't even have to run hard.
That dude cannot uncover.
I think one thing that'll be interesting to see as we go forward in the playoffs is the health of Jalen Hurts. Now, he clearly did not want to run in this game, and he didn't need to because, he wasn't going to put himself in harm's way. But the times that he did take off, he got down awfully quick. And, with Lane Johnson out, we got a pretty good pass rush from our backups. And he was moving all day long trying to avoid the pass rush. And we saw how ineffective he was running around and throwing from the pocket when it's collapsing.
Yeah.
I don't know, guys, if it was. Oh, go ahead, Mike.
No, please.
No, I was going to say it was again. Strange game on both sides of the ball. Yeah, Hurts does not look 100%, right? He did not look like he was at full speed, and it was they Philly knew they had to win the game, so they had starters on both sides of the ball. But I don't know, guys. To me, they looked like they were sleepwalking a little bit. They looked a little flat. They knew they were going to win the game, but let's be honest. I mean, if it was the other way around, and the Giants, it had been cut to a one-score game at the end there, I would not have been thrilled with as an Eagle fan, I would not have been thrilled with that performance. I thought that they were just going to roll the Giants. Same thing to your point, Mike. I was, thinking like, how much am I even going to watch of this game? I mean, you're going to watch it, but am I going to really get upset when the Giants are down by 30, by the third quarter kind of thing? And that it looked like it was going to head that way, but it really didn't. But Scott, to your point, I think, I just made a couple, notes on just a couple things. Like, Cager had a good game. We saw some nice runs from both Brightwell and Breida. I thought, so, whether or not Philly was just sort of, I don't know, they just did not see. They didn't have the same intensity as they've obviously had before. When Hurts was in prior to his injury. So I wonder if you guys were noticing the same thing.
Yeah, I wrote down here in my notes that the Giants had more energy than the Eagles the whole game. It was clearly the game was decided by talent level. Because if the Giants backups were good enough, they'd have won that game. And I think that's like a threefold thing here. I kind of had in the back of my mind that teams either go one or two ways when they need the win and the other team doesn't. They either do what the Giants did to the Colts last week, and there's several other examples of that, or they come out a little tight.
Yeah.
And then there's several examples of that too. And you didn't know which you were going to get from the Eagles, but they certainly looked a little tight. And I think a lot of that was them being off their game because a huge portion of their offense is Hurts running. And as Scott mentioned, either the coaches told him not to, or he didn't want to, or some combination of both. But I think you really got kind of a look behind the curtain there at what happens when Jalen Hurts can't run the ball for whatever reason.
Yeah.
He's a pedestrian at best passing quarterback. And it reminds me a little bit of Cam Newton. Cam Newton won the MVP largely on his legs. And then the coaching staff in Carolina decided, we want this guy to be around for a while. We're going to limit his running. Well, as soon as you limit his running, you take away the MVP from him. You take away what makes him really valuable. So I think that's where the Eagles are now with Hurts. In hindsight, looking back, I don't know who their backup quarterback is, but if you're going to put together a game plan to win that game, knowing your quarterback can't run, they might have been just as well off, or maybe even better off with a backup who's not a runner.
So their backup's Minshew. Gardner Minshew.
Oh, yeah.
And actually, I screwed up last week because I remember I said they signed Mike Glennon. Well, Mike Glennon actually practiced with them or tried out with them, but he was actually signed by the Dolphins and is still on the Dolphins practice squad. So correction from last week, since we went on sort of a bit about Mike Glennon, and he's not even an Eagle. So
the bit was worth it.
We could talk about Glennon's neck. I'll take it. Yeah.
Yeah. We might have a whole episode dedicated to Glennon's neck sometime. You know. Yeah, that was my takeaway on that. And I don't want anyone listening to think that I have something against Jalen Hurts like I have against past Eagle quarterbacks or other division quarterbacks. I like Jalen Hurts. He's going to be a pain in our ass for a while, I believe.
Yep.
But this just kind of gives you a look at what happens when you take away, at work, we always say, what's your fastball? I want you working on your fastball. Jalen Hurts' fastball is running the ball. So when you take that away from him, he's average.
And I think we saw a bit there too. We've seen all year long what a good offensive line does for him. We also have seen what AJ Brown has done for him. And AJ Brown, had a few catches in this game. I mean, he was silent after the first half, but when Hurts just throws the ball up to him, that guy can go up and get it.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing we are missing. We're missing a guy that can make contested catches. We joke about Galladay making the contested catch for the touchdown, but that's few and far in between. The rest of the time when he's blanketed, that ball drops to the ground. So, I would love to see us get Daniel Jones some help next year, as it really looks like he's going to stay here. We saw, even with these backups in this game, they looked as effective as our regular wide receivers. Cager did okay. Johnson did okay. Guys were running around getting open, not wide open, but enough so that Webb can make some throws to them.
Yeah, Cager, he might have found himself a spot on the with the regulars as we go into the playoffs. He was very impressive.
Yeah, I agree. The guy, I have a lot of confidence in that guy coming down with the ball. I mean, I know, there was a couple underneath routes and some things he caught him, and so a lot of his catches were not ultimately contested really, but the guy, for what it's worth, 8 catches, 69 yards. The guy looked, he's looked impressive the few times that he has actually had the ball in his hands. But guys, I want to make a comment just about the Giants' preparation for this game. Again, strange game we had with backups, on all sides, defense and offense. It's a nod again to Dable and having this team ready to go. Playing as a team. You saw it a couple times with Barkley, who wasn't even suited up. Just fired up on the sidelines, especially at the end of the game. He was barking at Davis Webb, kind of egging him on a little bit, or and those things, that all comes down from the head coach right there. So I know we'll talk a lot about next week's the playoff game heading into Minnesota, but right now, man, we've got a lot of things, a lot of positive energy going right now with this team.
Yeah, a lot of positive energy. One thing I'm not going to use this as my pet peeve, although it could have been a pet peeve. I had to laugh because after the game was over, I flipped over to the pregame for the Sunday night game, which ended up being Detroit beating the Dick, which we'll get to in a minute.
Oh, well, can't wait to get to that. Yeah.
but the studio goes and they're showing highlights of the afternoon games, and of course they show the Dallas game, and they're like, oh, Dallas stumbling into the playoffs, and then they go to the Eagle game and they show 2 highlights of Hurts throwing to AJ Brown, and they show a touchdown, and they're like, and the Eagles steamroll their way into the playoffs, and I'm thinking, wait a minute, Dallas is struggling, and Philadelphia is just steamrolling their way in the playoffs. They didn't. You're not going to talk about how they might have struggled a little bit or didn't look as good as they possibly did. The Eagles wrap up the number 1 seeder and primed for the playoffs. I'm like,
wait, Scott, really? I want to piggyback on that too, because I'm glad you brought that up, because Tony Dungy, who, I don't have a problem with Dungy, right? I mean, he actually has gone out on a limb and made a number of picks that the rest of the Sunday night crew will not do. He actually picked Detroit to win the game, for example. But yeah, the same thing. He said something. They do the quick highlight, and just like a robot, just programmed to be like, Eagles, go, just take care of the Giants in dominating fashion. Eagles look good, getting the 1 seed. I'm like, they really didn't actually, dude. Like. And again, Eagle fans, I would think, would agree. Like, nah, actually, they didn't look that good at all. And Dungy's just kind of with that plastered smile he has on his face. Eagles looking good. Nah, I didn't think they did. We may get this fucking team in the divisional round if things work out.
Yeah, it's amazing. Things like that are amazing. I don't know how you do it justice to talk about that game without mentioning that the Giants play. I mean, teams that sometimes in this week, they bench key players. The Giants played their number 2s at every position on both sides of the ball. I mean, that's kind of unprecedented. And it's not. They even considered Tyrod Taylor to not be. They didn't want Tyrod Taylor getting hurt in this game. They went to the practice squad for the freaking quarterback. How do you talk about this game without mentioning that is comical?
Well, and halfway through the game, I think Charles Davis still was under the assumption the Giants were playing their starters, the way he was announcing.
Unreal. I wasn't even paying attention to that guy.
No, there's a couple other things in there, but we'll hold off on that for right now. So, all right, we are gearing up for the playoff run. Sunday, 4:30. We got the 4:30 slot on Sunday. So first off, we're getting ready for Minny. We'll talk about the mini game in a minute. What do you guys think about the scheduling? Do you like that slot? I think the only other slot I would have liked better maybe is Sunday at 1:00, but I don't mind the 4:00 slot on a Sunday.
No, I would have. I'm fine with anything on the Sunday. Really, my problem with Saturday is if you lose Saturday, you feel like God. The playoffs didn't even get started yet, and we're out. Like
Great point.
That's that feeling. Yep. And of course, we talked ad nauseum last year about the inherent disadvantage in the playoffs and playing on a Monday night. So you really were hoping for the sometime on Sunday game. At least I was.
Yeah, I love the slot, guys. It's funny. I did predictions. This was before the Sunday night result, so I predicted where the games would. Just a little, trying to have a little fun on predicting the games when they, the time slots, the dates, and the time slots. And I'm usually not bad at that. So I was thinking I did it really for Green Bay to win, and then I'm like, all right, I'll just throw in. If Detroit wins, I'll just throw in Seattle in the same game. And the only game I was correct on was ours.
Really?
Giants Vikings at 4:00. So I happen to love that slot, 4:00 on Sunday. I like it. I didn't think we'd get the night game, either any one of the night games. They typically don't put the Giants when they do make the playoffs. All right, it's been so rare. They're typically not a Saturday game. So. I had a couple other games right on the correct day, just not the time slot, that kind of thing. But I love our the time slot guys. But we'll know. What I do like is that knowing that Seattle and San Fran are their first game, we'll know our destination when if we win our game. We know if Seattle wins, we know we're going to the winner of Dallas and Tampa. That's probably not going to happen. But let's assume San Francisco wins. We know that we're going to Philly.
I thought that the Dallas Tampa Bay game would be the Sunday night game. That's what I thought. They put that in primetime Sunday night. I guess they're moving it to Monday to let Buck and Aikman do it or whatever. So.
Yeah.
Got to get them on the Dallas game.
So the Minnesota preview, guys. I see a lot of optimism from people that the Giants are going to win this game. And at first I was on that train too. It makes me a little worried because I want to be the underdog. I want to go in there thinking we don't have a chance. But I'll tell you what, if we play as solidly as we did the last time we were in Minnesota and cut down on turnovers, I think we have a shot in this game. We have to avoid a track meet, but I am looking for us to hang right with them. And I think Vegas is too, because I think the line on this game is 3 points, which as the road team, we're basically it's a pick 'em.
Yeah. Yeah, I think absolutely, Scott. We definitely have a chance to win this game. And this is, I was saying all day on Sunday, waiting for the results. Like, you always, got to be careful what you wish for. And I kept thinking the whole time I was rooting hard for San Francisco to beat Arizona, so they would elevate to the 2 seed and we would, Minnesota fall to us. But the more I think about it, I'm extremely thrilled to have another shot at Minnesota. And guys, I don't know if you remember this. I remember saying this out loud that week, Christmas Eve. I think I mentioned it last week on our show last week. I said, before even that game started, I said, I have a strange feeling that maybe we lose to Minnesota in the regular season. We come back and beat their ass in the playoffs.
You did say that.
We have it. I feel for some reason, and I'm going to give my prediction a little bit later, but I'm usually so negative and pessimistic, and guys, I feel really good about this week, and I hope I'm not setting myself up for major disappointment. But Scott, we are the underdog. I mean, we should be. I mean, this team won 13 games, the Vikings. Right, 13-4. They
13 games with a negative point differential.
With a negative, yeah. But you're right. The line hasn't moved. It opened up at Giants getting 3. I don't think it's moved since it opened. But the Vikings they're supposed to win this game. Minnesota. They're certainly, so the Giants are no question the underdog, but they're not an inferior type of underdog where they just don't have a shot. I don't think we would have had a shot going to San Francisco. I don't. This team with their defense. I wanted to play this Minnesota Viking defense because we needed a team with a poor defense, and Minnesota's got a shitty one. They do.
Now, do you guys think, before we talk about the specifics of the Giant game, that San Francisco is going to still be able to beat Philadelphia or Dallas with that offense, or whoever else they play? I mean, because I don't know who the favorites for the Super Bowl are. If you asked me 3 weeks ago, I probably would have said the Eagles, but the Eagles have had some trouble. San Francisco, I mean, they still have Brock Purdy, but the guy has not looked like a rookie whatsoever. The guy is running that offense. Their defense is probably by far, hands down, the best in the conference.
Yeah.
And I'll throw out a stat first before you answer that. With the Dick being out, 4 of the highest paid QBs this year missed the playoffs. Rodgers, Wilson, Murray, and Watson. Those are the 4 top paid QBs, and all 4 of them missed the playoffs. First time that's happened in something like 30 years.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, that's something you don't expect to hear, especially, listening to the media and their reliance, and they weight everything on quarterbacks. Of course, they'll ignore this stat and they'll, pick right up where they left off next year. And they'll just assume that, whatever team Aaron Rodgers goes to is instantly a contender. And it's like, why? Green Bay wasn't last year. I mean, I guess at the end of the year they played well, but it's not. The games are so tight and so close now that the impact of the quarterback, I think, is lessened in some instances. And this is kind of proof of that. I mean, you still have to have a good one to win in this league. They touch the ball every play. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying I don't think we're in an era where a quarterback can elevate your team to another level so high above, you know what I'm saying? I don't think they can take you from a mediocre team to a great team. Like in the past, we've seen, some teams that you just know without that quarterback, they're garbage. And I don't see that as much anymore. And what Scott just said kind of bears that out.
It's interesting though, seeing that 7 seed flip flop, because, you had the possibility going into that week, it could be Seattle, Detroit, or Packers. And people are going into the game, are like, oh, the Packers are the team to watch out for. And probably if you were to say who the second most dangerous team would be the Detroit Lions. Mm-hmm. And who ended up making it is Seattle. And so everyone expects Seattle to just get steamrolled that first round. They might. I actually think they probably will. So it went from everyone saying, oh, Green Bay's on a resurgence, which I think a lot of that is just more remembering Rodgers fondly than it is actually that Green Bay was going to be a tough out, because Green Bay didn't look that great in a game that they had to win against Detroit.
No. You mentioned it before, Mike, about a team playing tight. I watched the entire Packer Lion game Sunday night. It was the last game of the regular season, and I sat there and I was just hoping that the Dick would be sent home, and it couldn't have been a better ending to the weekend. Setting up for a wild card game for us. I was sitting there just chilled out watching that game and just pulling for Detroit. Really rooting against Aaron Rodgers, as we've documented our feelings for him for a couple of years now on this show, certainly with good reasons, I think. And the guy proved it again on Sunday night, where I remember saying, I don't remember exactly the score, guys. But it was the last turnover that he had. The Green Bay had a chance to come down and win the game, and on their home field, playoff berth on the line. And I'm like, all right, Rodgers, then fucking take your team down the field and win the game. I just had visions of like Eli Manning would have done that. And I hate to do like the apples to apples with it, but that's what I was thinking. Other quarterbacks that have been forced in that position to they do it, and this guy, he throws the ball up like he's just fucking throwing lollipops up there and just hoping that Jordy Nelson and Devontae. I still heard Devontae Adams' name on Monday. At 17 games, 18-week season, I'm still hearing about the absence of Devontae Adams from the jackoffs in the studio. This is unreal with this guy.
Yeah, no, they'll make any excuse for Aaron Rodgers. And we've talked about before, a lot of that is because they put their eggs in his basket, and now they don't want to be embarrassed. But he's done. He's cooked. Yeah. He's cooked.
Yeah. couple of those passes he floated at the end there. And you know what's funny? His last pass, much like Favre's last pass, was an interception.
Yeah. You can see that he's cooked. Even through that winning streak they had to get back in contention, that wasn't really on him. The defense was playing well. He was doing, he was not throwing enough interceptions to lose. He's cooked. He really is.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what team he goes to. He might get on a great team that's going to the playoffs with or without him. Good for him. But he's, as a superstar in this league, he's done.
And another little footnote to this, guys, and I know this is looking way ahead, but another thing I like about the minute the regular season ends, we know our final three opponents for the next year, and so we know who we're playing, for 2023. And I'd much rather, the Green Bay name seems a little more scarier than Detroit in recent years past. So because the Giants were locked in third place, there were a couple things that I wanted to happen. One was I wanted them to play the Panthers. So the Panthers, Saints, and Falcons all ended up at 7-10 in third place. And somehow, because the Giants visit the NFC South, same place finisher, so that we knew they were going to be at one of those cities. So I'm like, all right, if they're not coming here to Charlotte, maybe we'll take a road trip down to Atlanta. The three Giant fans, we've done that before, certainly. No, couldn't even get Atlanta. It had to be New Orleans. So I was pissed off about that. But one thing I was happy about, a couple of things. Obviously, the Dick going home. But then also, I'd rather be playing Green Bay next year. They're going to be a mess compared to Detroit. Detroit's a team on the rise.
Yeah, no
so
question.
they end up – So Detroit now ended up in second, and Green Bay gets third. So we got Green Bay at the stadium next year. Obviously getting way ahead here, but I like to already think about those things, who we're playing next year, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I definitely think over the whole AFC and NFC, the one team that didn't make the playoffs that had a potential to bang some people up in there is Detroit.
Yeah.
I would have wanted no part of Detroit in these playoffs.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, and we may be getting, again, way ahead of ourselves, like Chris said, but we may be getting a Rams team that's on a rebuild too, especially if Sean McVay leaves that team too.
Yeah.
Because I believe that they're the third place team in the West.
But the one surprising thing we got, which came from out of left field to me, was we are at Vegas. I don't know if we can pass that up. I mean,
I know.
Go into the Darth Vader Dome and watch the Giants and then go gamble a little bit. My goodness.
Do you think license plate guy will be there?
Yeah.
I'd bet on it.
Yeah.
He'd be the guy. He's the guy flying the plane, handling our luggage, checking us into the hotel. He's going to be everywhere.
I'd put 7-5 odds on it.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. It's gonna be better than that. So for the Minnesota game, what do you guys think we need to do to come away with a win?
I think Chris did a good job just talking about it earlier. And I agree with him that sometimes you play a team in the regular season, they nip you, and you're like, damn, I wish we had another shot because we could have done these 3 or 4 things. And if we could have cleaned those up, we could have done some damage against that team. So I don't think you want to turn the ball over against a team. Well, you don't want to turn the ball over against anybody. That's very cliche, but especially against a team with a defense like Minnesota's. First of all, you have no business giving them turnovers. We should not let that happen. And then how damaging a turnover could actually be. This defense has done a good job all year. When we have turned the ball over, which hasn't been very often, other teams are punting and getting field goals out of it. If we happen to turn the ball over, that we just have to take care of the ball extra careful on our side of the field. Now, we'll get into the predictions and everything, and I agree with you guys. We have a chance to win this game. I don't think we will, but we can get into that when we're doing predictions and stuff. But they just have to play the same game they played last time and clean it up, and don't fall so far behind early. I think that was the thing that hurt them most against Minnesota the first time, was going down 2 scores early and then, having to fight their way back in, where if they could have kept that close, they might win that thing going away, because the last quarter and a half, they were the better team on the field by a good margin.
Yep.
And maybe you carry that forward into this game, hopefully, knock wood.
You know what? I'm going to use an adjective that Coach Smart from the Georgia Bulldogs used to start Monday night's disaster against TCU. Aggressive. I think the Giants need to be aggressive, guys. I think
nothing to lose.
Yeah, nothing to lose. I don't want to, defensively, I was thinking first defensive side of the ball, and we know about the Minnesota firepower, right? Justin Jefferson, probably could be arguably the best receiver in the league. I want to see. I think we need to double team his ass as much as possible, and I know that leaves guys like Thielen and Hawkinson who burned us. Hawkinson had over 100 yards, the first time we met them, but you can't take away everybody. So I think if we could shut down Jefferson, because Cousins, their game plan is, he's going to want to get the ball and he's going to want to be a key playmaker in that game. I think if we could frustrate his ass early on, shut him down as much as possible. I'm serious. I'll take a chance on double teaming Jefferson and let other guys beat you.
Agreed.
So defensively, and Wink, he's not going to. He's going to keep it the defense. The needle on the pressure, the knob there. So we've got to get after Kirk Cousins, force him. Shit, we had him turning the ball over last time we played these guys, and the flop interception was overturned. I think there was another one that
Another one
we
called
can
back
definitely.
by a penalty.
Another one was exactly. Another one was called back by penalties. We turned his ass over twice, and neither one of them counted in the stat sheet. So I think if we could just harass the hell out of Kirk Cousins, we have to do that defensively. And then offensively, guys, it's funny. Something tells me that I don't want to just stick the ball into Barkley's chest 30 times in this game. I want, because I think Minnesota will be geared to stop that and be focused on stopping Barkley. So maybe we use Jones' legs a little bit more, get him with the RPOs running a little bit more. Maybe we stick a Breida and Brightwell in there every now and then. Mike, we've been talking about this for a couple of weeks now, where those guys have looked good. They're fresh. Those guys. I'd like mixing it up a little bit in the offensive backfield. Maybe using those guys a little bit, and then hopefully, I know our receiving core again. It is what it is at this point in the season. I hate that expression, but that's but maybe we upend Minnesota a little bit by not just running the ball and being conservative and coming out with an aggressive game plan offensively, and take our chances, guys, and see. I think I have the Giants winning this game. I do. I just have a good feeling about it, and it just goes back a few weeks, thinking that we were going to see this team again. For some reason, we have them on our plate, and I have a good feeling about it.
Maybe in the playbook this week, a end zone fade to Kenny Galladay, the resurgence of Kenny Galladay, who only came like 72 catches short of making his bonus.
Yeah, only that was close. They should have fed him the ball a few more times to get him there. Chris, I love your comment about Breida and Brightwell in there, because what you tend to see when that happens is when Barkley's in the game. I have no idea. This is a number pulled out of my ass, but 90% of the time we're looking at 7-8 man boxes when Barkley's in the game. You get Breida in there or Brightwell and you give them a drive, that becomes 5 and 6 man boxes. And that's how come these guys rip off 8-yard runs where Barkley seems to be meeting, someone in the hole on every play, and only his immense talent allows him to, break some tackles and get some yards. So, I think you could steal a few drives in this game for Brightwell and Breida, and I'll bet we move the ball pretty well on those drives.
Yeah. And
no one says on those drives too, if you end up in a 3rd and 8, well, hell, then check Barkley back in. It's not like you have to. Oh, we've dedicated ourselves to Brightwell on this drive. If it doesn't work and you end up in 3rd and 8, put Barkley in there and throw it to him. I like that strategy a lot.
I think Daniel Bellinger is going to have a decent game too. We did use him in the last Minnesota game.
Mm-hmm.
He had a crucial fumble in that, but he was open in that. And I think Chris touched upon earlier when he said Minnesota has a horrendous defense. We saw that last game. They weren't getting a lot of pressure on Jones. Mm-hmm. Jones had a lot of time to find open receivers. If that formula continues, I see us having a chance to win. So, I'll let you guys talk first about your predictions, and then I'll go. And so I think you both have basically outlined where you're going from a general standpoint. So Mike, you might as well give the specifics and get the bad news out first.
Yeah, I'll go first. We got good news, bad news. You always want to hear the bad first. I think Minnesota wins this game. The I don't know what it is. I mean, like I said, can we beat them? Absolutely, we can beat them. And the fourth quarter, if it's close, I'll change my pick. But um, I do think the game's going to be close. Minnesota's won a lot of close games this year. I I get the feeling like listening to the Giants, and I know I'm wrong about this, but even Dable, some things he said this week, this team seems happy to be in the playoffs, and that's not, I don't think, a healthy attitude if you're making a run at the Super Bowl. If you're trying to win a couple games, um, they just seem like thrilled, like mission accomplished to be here to me. And I hope I'm wrong about that. And I think I probably am, but I think at the end of the day, we play very well. I don't think we embarrass ourselves out there. This isn't going to be like Eli Manning's first playoff experience at home against the Panthers. With that was a
nightmare.
I'm not going all the way there. That's not going to be what this is like. But at the end of the day, I think probably Minnesota maybe gets a field goal late, and we see something like 26-23. Yeah, 26-23. I'll go with that.
Yeah. It's well, I've kind of already given my my prediction in terms of the outcome. So now I got to, kind of give the breakdown of the scores. But it's interesting, right, guys? Because I thought about this a number of ways where I can see one of two things happening. I can see, I see it a close game too. I see it very similar to the first time we met with these guys. I'm actually just doing a score flip in terms. It was 27-24 Minnesota. That game. I'm giving the Giants 27-24 win in this one. I don't know exactly how the game's going to go. I think, but I have this crazy feeling. I can see if I was going to predict Minnesota, in a close game, because I can see this too, guys. I can see Minnesota being the frauds that they are, right? And everyone knows they're a fraud. I can see them winning their token home game against the Giants, right? It's like you said, Mike, the team that's just happy to be there. That no one expects the Giants to win. The Giants are a one and done type of team. It's mission accomplished, right? Their season's already a success, right? We've established and accomplished so many things just to get to this point, and I agree with all of that. So I can see. It's weird. I'm contradicting myself all in one sentence here, but I mean, I'm still going to predict the Giants winning 27-24. But at the same time, I could easily see this Minnesota Viking team, not playing their best ball, getting by the Giants in a squeaker, like a close game, and then just getting their fucking doors blown off to whoever they play in week 2 on the road type of thing. I can see that happening with this team. That's exactly how I see this Minnesota Viking team, because they've been doing that all year.
Yeah.
When they had that playoff miracle against New Orleans, right, when they scored on the last play of the game, and everyone thought like, oh my God, they're a team of destiny. They're going to go to the Super Bowl and this and that. They got shellacked the next week. That's Minnesota.
Yeah.
That's kind of, it's the same team that they trot out there every year. It seems like. So I'm going to stick though to my my prediction of just because I don't know. I obviously I want to have the Giants move on to the next round and give us at least one more game. So I'm going to stick with that they somehow go into Minnesota and win this game. As I predicted. And the only reason I'm really saying that, guys, is because I predicted it the week before we even played. Yeah, exactly. So that's why my reason of sticking with the Giants in terms of winning it. But, I see, but I can see Minnesota just squeaking by too and just getting just the hell beat out of them in the following week.
Yeah, I think that's a great call on Minnesota. If they beat us going out the next week and just getting trucked. I mean, you can see that absolutely
against whoever they play. Yeah.
I just my prediction really comes down to, I think it will be decided in coin flip fashion, and we lose the coin flip. That's that's my, because Minnesota's won coin flips all year.
And I think this may be their time to lose a coin flip in my point of view.
Maybe,
but, I look back at some of the iconic games against the Vikings in the playoffs. So, you had the 41-0 win that Chris and I attended. And then you had that infamous game with Chris Callaway bobbling the onside kick, and, the Vikings coming back in a game that they shouldn't have won.
Didn't even try to win.
Try to win. Denny Green was punting the ball away.
I still remember cheering when Denny Green punted the ball away, going, "What are you doing, you idiot?" And of course it worked out for him.
Of course.
But I look at this game. I took some of the comments I heard this week a little bit more different than Mike did, in that I think that there's some confidence there with the team, and I almost feel like they know that there's something up their sleeve that they aren't telling us, and they're like, I think we figured these guys out. That being said, I don't think this is going to be a blowout by any means, and I think the Giants are going to win, and I don't have an original thought that goes for me when it comes to a score lately. I think that Graham Gano lines up for a 60-yard field goal, bangs it through the uprights, and the Giants win 27-24 going out.
Oh,
Just flipping the entire game circumstance. I love it. So,
why not?
You know what I love about your comment there, Scott, about the Giants think they have something up the sleeve, and I think you're right. I think they do think that, and they may. And I think a lot of it has to do with the last game and how it played out. How, like, we had uncharacteristic turnovers. Minnesota had characteristic turnovers that got called back. It's almost like the Giants feel like if we play that same game, we're going to beat them by 10. But it made me think when he said they know something we don't. Do you remember that 41-0 game? Do you remember Jesse Armstead after that game going to the podium, and he had an envelope taped up under the podium, and he pulled it out and opened it, and it said Giants 40-7 on it. And he said, I gave them a little too much credit.
Oh,
I forgot that.
He taped the score up underneath the podium before the game.
that's awesome. Awesome.
That's like a America's Got Talent trick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When they got their 41st point, he's probably going, don't kick the extra point.
Howie Mandel's going,
yeah. How'd he do that? So that was clearly a game, I think, where they wrote up the game plan, and Fossil and the rest of the coaches said to these guys, we are whooping their ass, and it's all on tape, and there's nothing they're going to be able to do about it. And, and it played out that way. And man, what a blessing that would be if this game turns out anything like that one. That would be awesome.
No, I think we all predicted close shaves, and when it comes to close shaves, you can always go to manscaped.com and get 20% off using the code AngryMan. You get 20% off your order and free shipping. So go to manscaped.com. 3 Angry Giant fans sponsor. Use the promo code AngryMan and get 20% off your products.
It's a Minnesota week's always a good week to go with Manscaped sponsorship, because they live and die by close shaves, and hopefully we're giving them a close shave. But to me, Kirk Cousins, he looks like a guy who doesn't use Manscaped products. Like, he looks like a loser to me.
Guys, I'd have to actually look to see if this was true, because I knew it was going into last week's game because they got blown out by Green Bay the week before. But then they turned the tables on Chicago last week. Ooh. I still think Minnesota had a negative point differential going into the playoffs, even though they are a 13-win team.
That seems like really difficult to do. Like, I don't even think I could go through a schedule and write down scores to a game that would make a team 13-4 these days.
They were 13-4.
Yeah.
Yeah, here, hang on. Let me look.
Yeah, I'm looking at it here. Yeah, -3.
-3. So they stayed negative.
So basically, right. -3. They gave up 427 points.
I think the 4 losses had to have been pretty bad. They also won like 11 games by less than like 5 points.
Yeah, they lost to Dallas by 37.
Right. That's got to be an NFL record, right? I mean, to be 9 games over 500 to finish and to be 3 points negative, point differential, right? I mean, the NFL keeps the records on everything. That's got to be a record.
This is a good point. It might make me look into changing my pick, but after they squeaked by us with some favorable stuff, there are other games around that were a 3-point overtime win against the Colts and a blowout at Green Bay. They got blown out at Green Bay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at just like defensive statistics, and I know offensively they're pretty strong, but I'm not paying attention to that right now. I'm just looking at the what they're bad at. In Minnesota, I mean, total yards per game, they're second worst in the league in yards per game, tied for 3rd worst in points given up per game. And then, when you break it down, passing and rushing, they're equally as bad
That's
This
pretty
is a-
unbelievable.
This is a shaky 13-win team.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Very shaky.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if just the idea, I would love to see. I don't care. I mean, if the Giants can get up 7-0 and immediately put that pressure, and the team gets tight immediately, and the Giants are playing loose, and you get the nervous crowd going. Hopefully, that's what we need. We need to score first in this game.
I saw a quote from someone this week, and I can't remember which Giant it was. I almost think it was. I almost think it was Andrew Thomas, who's not a guy who talks a lot of trash, so it might not have been him. But he said he didn't think Minnesota was as loud as he thought it would be when they played there. So I hope that doesn't fire them up. But you know what? I could hear, when the crowd's going wild. Like, I have to laugh because Jacksonville sounded like it was pretty fired up this week, and of course the announcers kept going to Duval. This week. So they're still all talking about Duval County, which I think is ridiculous as hell. But I outside of the canned response every time they get a first down, or the and the skull thing that they do, I couldn't remember that game being that loud, at least the way it sounded on TV.
They always start a game. I think about this like when I've seen them on Monday night with the beginning of the game, with blowing the horn and the Vikings out there on a Harley, right? And the whole crowd is doing and you're like, oh my God, this place is going to be insane. And then the game starts and it's dead silent in it.
Dead silent. Any word on whether they're doing a whiteout again or anything like that? Like what?
I don't think they are for a playoff game. I didn't see anything yet.
I don't know. I'm curious. I love the Giants in the road whites, to be honest. I don't know why. It's just we've had a lot of success in the playoffs wearing our white. And
so
red,
when you do a whiteout, you can't really do a whiteout if the visiting team has white on. You're sort of cheering for them, aren't you?
Well, they would wear white.
They wore white.
Yeah, but I think they're going to wear purple this time.
Right. That's what I'm saying. If they're wearing their home color, which they normally do, right? The Vikings usually wear their purple. So that's why that one particular game was interesting. Like, they did, I was expecting the Giants to be in their road whites, and they came out with the blue. Anyway, just little miscellaneous things that I feel work in our favor. I want to see the Giants in the white. Actually, I like that look. I don't know why. I happen to like the road uniforms better than even the blue. I don't know why.
Because we have two Super Bowl memories of that.
Probably. Yeah. And a lot of road playoff wins in that era, right?
Yeah. A lot of
wearing white a lot.
Which we'll have a question about that coming up. We have several questions.
Good.
So I don't know if you guys remember my friend Keith, my neighbor. He watched the Dolphins game with us last year at Mulligan's.
He makes it.
Mm-hmm. Jerky. So he makes Buddy's jerky. So guys, Google Buddy's jerky. I think you can go to buddysjerky.com or something like that and get jerky. I am a jerky connoisseur. This guy makes great jerky. I just had good teriyaki. The pack of teriyaki was awesome. But he asked me to look into a stat on a rookie punter. So there is a guy who broke an 80-year-old NFL record this year. Do you know who that was?
A punter?
A punter.
Broke an 80-year-old record.
An 80-year-old record.
Oh, the net, right? Average, the net.
The net average, yeah. So you don't hear anything about this. So this guy, Ryan Stonehouse from the Titans, he broke Sammy Baugh's record from way back when, and not only broke it, obliterated it in the grand scheme of things. So this is a single season average set by a punter for just gross average. 53.1 yards. Sammy Baugh averaged 51.4, and that was the best up to that time. So this is a record stood for 80 years. This is like this is almost like the Joe DiMaggio record or something.
Yeah.
No, I didn't hear jack shit about this.
And it's huge. I remember thinking that and seeing it. And speaking of jerky and punters, our punter sucks. I'm tired of the Scottish hammer.
The Scottish hammer.
So what I loved about this, I'm standing in my front yard. Keith comes over, gives me a bag of teriyaki jerky, which is fantastic. 2 Dave Jennings football cards. Yeah. And gives me the tidbit about Ryan Stonehouse. This was great. So guys, go out there, Google Buddy's jerky. It's great jerky. It's reasonably priced. And it's fantastic. He's got a couple flavors. I've had the hot. I've had the teriyaki.
Yeah, it's good. He
Good
brought
stuff.
some of that to Mulligan's, and it was I ate my weight of it that day.
It's funny. Jerky always, it's like $30 an ounce, basically. You get this little patch, you eat it, and you're like, I want more, and it's like, I don't have enough credit to be able to do that.
$30 an ounce.
So here's another thing I found funny after I did more digging onto this Ryan Stonehouse. So Tommy Townsend is the punter for Kansas City. Tommy Townsend was this year's the first year the NFL Players Association did a vote for an All-Pro team. Tommy Townsend is the All-Pro punter named by the players, even though this guy for the Titans broke an 80-year-old record.
Yeah, so, that's kind of insane.
There's probably incentives in these guys' contracts, or who knows? Maybe not. I don't know. Punters. No one thinks like punters are secret weapons, man. No one thinks about it. Fiegels, the coffin corner. We used to, right? He was the coffin corner king.
Punter in the Hall of Fame though, Ray Guy, the late Ray Guy.
That's it.
That's crazy to me.
Well, back in the when the Giants weren't even in the NFL, back in the 70s, that decrepit era of football and Dave Jennings, you mentioned his name just a moment ago. He was our best player.
He was our offense. Yeah. He was the Graham Gano of the 70s.
Wow. Jennings was our best weapon on offense.
Who did the Titans play? It was Jacksonville. Right? So I watched that game and I heard the stat for this guy from Tennessee, but I will say this. I don't know if you guys watched the whole game or anything. Both punters in that game were amazing.
I didn't see the game.
I think the Tennessee punter, the guy who set the record, his first punt like bounced at the 10 directly toward the sideline, hit on the sideline, and then went down the sideline some more, went out of bounds at like the 2.5. And then the next time Jacksonville, they moved the ball a little bit off the goal line. Then their guy punts, and he has a ball land at the 1 and go straight up in the air. And, they down it at the 1. I'm like, this is a punter battle. This is awesome. But I was thinking about, Chris, we've talked about this before, like how the Giants can't have anything. Like if the Giants run a trick play and score a touchdown, the other team within the next 2 series will run a trick play and score a touchdown.
Absolutely.
I was thinking about that with the punter battle. I mean, that's something that would happen to us.
Yeah.
We'd have an awesome punt, and then they'd come back and have a better punt. On the next
absolutely.
turn.
It's got to be one-upped.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which, by the way, we didn't mention the fake field goal that we attempted, right? So we definitely were.
Did we do a fake punt too? From our own 30?
Was that?
Wait, last week? Did I even?
I don't know. I might have missed that.
Well, we went for the fake punt and a fake field goal.
We definitely did the fake field goal, which didn't even look like a fake field goal because it was just awful.
If it wasn't a fake punt, maybe it was going for it from our own end. But I think that's not true, because I was going to talk about Matt LaFleur and his idiocy of going for it on his own 30, which gave the Lions a heads up. And in a game like that, why would you go for it on your own 30? But I thought we ran a fake punt. We snapped it to the up man. He ran around to the side. No, I thought we did a trick play.
Well, it was definitely a fake field goal because the Scottish Hammer was holding, and that's what raised my ire about him so much. I'm like, guy can't punt, can't hold, can't run a fake. Get him out of here.
All right, I got to correct myself. It was not a fake punt. It was the onside kick.
The surprise onside.
Oh,
the onside kick to start the second half.
That surprised nobody.
Oh, right. Forgot about that.
That's how
much of a Grey Goose game it was. Like I forgot. You forget plays. Yeah.
I just want to know how you have a game full of scrubs that don't have any tape on them whatsoever, and you run plays like this, and the Eagles are 1,000% ready for it.
All over it.
We haven't run a fake field goal this season, I don't think.
No.
And we have scrubs in there, and the Eagles can't be thinking they're faking it. It was a terrible place and time to fake it, but they're just like they knew it was coming.
Draped.
You know what's great about doing that,
the
though?
outside kick, like Gano comes running up to the ball. No Eagle even turned. They were just standing there staring at the ball.
The best thing about that is you don't have the Eagles pinning their head back to go after the kicker. You save Graham Gano, and now you make the Eagles have to think about fake field goals in the future.
Yeah. Now they've got it on tape. Although
guys
if I'm
got
the Eagles, if I'm
the
the
Scottish
Eagles, I'm
hammer.
thinking go ahead and run that
Yeah.
again. There's no.
By the way, I like those kind of like, you know, I love going to breweries, right, guys? And craft beer is one of my hobbies, certainly. And like, so whoever comes up with these names for the beers, there you go, Scott. There, which
The
is
Southern
great.
Tier.
Well, I just love the names of, you know, some of the beers, and someone's coming sitting around a round table, right, in a meeting and coming up with these names. So I was thinking, so earlier I wrote this down and I didn't sneak it in, but we were like Glennon's Neck would be a great name for like a
that
craft beer.
Glennon's Neck Pale Ale.
Yes, exactly. You know, it's got about, yeah. It's maybe like a, you know, mid-range kind of thing, just like, you know, he's mediocre, because his mediocrity in terms of his NFL career, it'd be like a
5% alcohol.
yeah, it's maybe a 5.2. It's an easy drinking pale ale. Give me a couple. I'll start with a Glennon's Neck. Yeah,
I get two Glennon's Necks and a Scottish Hammer.
and a
please.
Scottish Hammer.
Hammer's got to be like a red ale, 7% alcohol.
Either Scottish Hammer is either a red ale, like a Killian's, or like maybe I was thinking of a stout or a porter. You know, one of those, something like
it'd have to
that.
be something substantial. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll take a Dable's beard, please.
Right.
So you guys have any pet peeves this week? I'll start with Mike again.
Yeah, I'm never going to be caught without a pet peeve again. I'll tell you. This one,
because of low.
This one I think is a good one. There's a couple that I could have used this week, and maybe I'll tack them on. But this one I've been holding a little bit, and I'm glad I held it because another example popped up this week. So my pet peeve is now that these players, quarterbacks who get benched and just fucking quit their team. I mean, can you imagine? Like Eli doing that? Like now
Right.
we're gonna go. We're gonna go. Geno Smith this week. I'm out of here.
Gone.
I can't believe the level of non-commitment. I mean, listen, I agree with Derek Carr. I'm gonna go to Derek Carr first. I agree with him. Nothing that is happening with the Raiders is Derek Carr's fault. So his getting benched I equate it to Eli getting benched. I mean, it's not the big streak and it's not the multiple, Super Bowl MVP or anything like that, but it was just doing something to do something.
Yeah.
Derek Carr is not the problem there. But then to just, I'm taking a leave of absence to get my mind around. No, you go and you hold your clipboard.
Nope.
And then that scrub comes in and gets hurt and you're right back in there. It always happens. So there's Mariota, right? Mariota did the same thing. Just like now, who's Marcus Mariota to leave a team?
Right.
He's been holding a clipboard for like 6 years.
Like he's earned that level of credibility where like, how fucking dare you bench me? I'm Marcus Mariota.
I mean, the NFL's getting more like the NBA with the inmates running the asylum. I saw, speaking of that, I saw this week that Kyler Murray has been given say on the next coaching hire. Kyler Murray, what, dude?
Is the guy going to let him play Call of Duty?
Are you really that? Yeah, right. This guy's no football brain. If it's not, if he can't call the play on Madden, he doesn't know what the hell. And oh yes, we're giving Kyler a say in this coaching hire. What is going on with these guys? Just running the asylum, guys like Carr. I said I kind of get Carr. That was bullshit, but you still don't quit. But Mariota, Kyler Murray, what are these guys doing?
I'll give you a couple good examples. Joe Flacco this week started a game that had meaning for Miami.
Yeah.
And he was in there. He just sits on the sidelines, holds his clipboard. Oh, this guy's hurt. This guy's hurt. This guy's I'll come in. Yeah, Matt Ryan got benched midway through the season. He didn't leave. He was still standing there.
Veteran.
See, I think it's a veteran. It's a generational thing.
Yeah.
That group that you just mentioned, Scott's like a couple step up the maturity ladder than these younger guys. But I mean, this is just, if this is the way the NFL is going to go, where you have to worry about benching a quarterback, or they're going to, it's like the NFL transfer portal. Like, no, I quit this team. It's just beyond me now. And here's the one. So it's players and coaches. Here's the one that's really gotten under my skin this week. Sean McVay. I think he's 40. It might be 39.
Young dude.
Wants to step away from the Rams.
Yeah.
Now, this is so transparent that I can't even believe that he's not getting destroyed in the media. The media seems understanding of this. That team sold their soul for a Super Bowl. They have no draft picks. They have no money. They're paying Stafford's like at a 5-year contract. Of course, McVay wants it. He doesn't want anything to do with this rebuild. He's won his Super Bowl there now, and he's got clout. He wants to go to another team and win another Super Bowl immediately. There is no guts in guys like this to me. This is a gutless move. He doesn't want to prove it again. That is just. I mean, that is just not the way it's supposed to work. That's not acting like a man at the top of your profession. You're being a baby.
And that actually can turn serious, because I've heard a couple of rumors where people are like, not rumors, but I should say speculation, where people are like, well, you know what? We have to make sure that coaches as well as players have good mental health. I don't think this is a mental health thing, like Mike says. I think this is a situation where McVay looks at the team and goes, I'm fucked for the next 5 years.
Yeah.
I got to get out of here.
Yeah. He sold his soul along with the management to win a Super Bowl. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. Super Bowl is the pinnacle. It's the ultimate goal. But you can't be, the owners, the other players you brought in and gave all this money to, they're still stuck with the shit ball that you created. And you get to bounce off and maybe go to do TV for a year and hand pick your job of a team that's on the rise. This is the NFL is becoming the NBA in that sense so much, where the pieces on the chessboard are making the calls and dictating where they want to play and stuff. It's not going to end well.
A good question there would be, what's Aaron Donald going to do? He's getting up there in age. Does he want to hang around for a rebuild?
Yeah, I mean, who knows? I think they always say that decisions like this reveal character, right? So I learned a lot about Sean McVay, Derek Carr, and Marcus Mariota's character over the end of this year, because, especially Carr, to walk away from the Raiders. And again, I think he got jobbed, but he is the Raiders. He doesn't want to embrace that.
He's the franchise quarterback there. He's the
face of the franchise. They had an off year. Yep. They had an off year.
They've had a lot of off years.
Yeah, weren't they pretty good last year? Like,
well, playoffs last year.
People forget this, and
they were in the playoffs last year.
I was actually going to bring this up earlier. They were the early game on Saturday last year against the Bengals in wild card weekend, and if it weren't for a pretty bad officiating call, the Raiders win that game.
Yep.
Yeah.
And if the Raiders win that game, Joe Burrow doesn't make it to the Super Bowl. We don't hear Joe Cool, and we don't get the whole mystique of the Bengals. There's a lot of things that change just on that one of what you thought was basically a minor game at the time.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Now that's mine, guys. I think we have. Yep. It's not rampant yet, but it's where there's smoke, there's fire, and I think we have a character issue on the horizon with the NFL.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, you're hitting the nail right on the head, Mike, with that. And it just goes along with sort of we're a couple old school guys, the three of us, I think. And I had a couple random, pet peeves this week. Now that the season ended and we're getting into the postseason and how the game is going to be talked about now for the next couple weeks. And I'm just going to highlight a couple things. I don't even know if they're pet peeves, guys. Again, I'm kind of doing pet peeves / observations. I know it's a pet peeve segment, but so these are things that irk me, but I'm just going to go ahead and give you a couple. So one of the first one's just kind of stupid, silly bullshit that you see, and it just annoys the hell out of me. But we're obviously in January. We're in the Northern Hemisphere. It's fucking cold, right? So these games, it's this time of year, outdoor stadiums, it's cold. Green Bay, Wisconsin, notoriously a cold stadium. So why, when I'm watching the game on Sunday night with Detroit against Green Bay, at some point in the game, and I've probably mentioned this before on this show of ours, there's the fucking guy with the heavy set guy with no shirt on, belly hanging out over his pants, hairy chest, half in the bag. It's late in the game, and then if they can't show a guy running on the field because we're so obsessed with that showing up on Twitter and social media and every other freaking platform that you want to list, Why does someone on the ESPN broadcast or NBC in this case, whatever, feel the need to still show a shirtless jack-off in when it's 24 degrees out? When it's 24 degrees out. Why are we still doing this?
Yeah.
Stop showing the guy. So then the announcer has to bring him up. Like Collinsworth has to make a comment to Rico. Oh, I hope that guy's, got some long underwear on below his waist. He's got to make some kind of off-the-cuff comment. And we as viewers sitting on our living room couch have to fucking laugh at this comment or do something. Stop showing these people once and for all. If anyone who's associated with any of the networks that are listening to the Three Angry Giant fans and listening to Cardone right now, like, hey, we might want to just consider not showing this thing anymore. Just get rid of it. Stop it. Get it out of the league.
I don't know if you saw Dan Campbell's nose, but Dan Campbell's nose was as red as Coughlin's cheeks were during that.
That was worse, Scott.
And we know that Coughlin had frostbite.
Yeah.
You know what? Where I thought you were going with that, Cardone, was the ubiquitous showing of the thermostat on the during the games.
They love showing thermostats in cold weather cities and Miami and Arizona. You never see it in New York.
The ones that get me are the ones where it's really hot. And like the thermostat is pegged at like 150. You're like, it's not 150 degrees down there. Like, what are you talking about?
The surface temperature here is 180.
Yeah. You can play in the sun? It's not.
But there's something I just thought of again today, guys, and it didn't get. I saw a tiny bit of coverage on it, and the reason why I think it's important, well, for a couple of reasons. The late in the game, this is the Green Bay game. I don't know if you guys saw this. There was a Detroit Lion player that was down and injured on the field. It was in the red zone somewhere. So what happened is. A number of the trainers from the Lions came out onto the field.
Yeah.
Okay, so one of the Lion trainers kind of just puts his hand on Quay Walker, I guess the linebacker or the defensive lineman for the Packers. Play is stopped. There's a guy injured on the field, and the trainer puts his hand on Walker just to kind of not forcibly, whatever. And Quay Walker decides to shove this guy. He shoves the trainer. This is especially bad and atrocious given the fact that we're 6 days removed at that time from the Damar Hamlin life being saved on the field, and Quay Walker's deciding to shove a trainer while there's a NFL player lying injured on the ground. Inexcusable. No one really talked about it in the media. The guy should be fucking thrown out of he should be suspended for like half a season for that.
Shoving a trainer should be way more punishable than shoving a ref.
Yeah,
not even close.
Yeah. Right. And then they showed him walking down the tunnel, and the guy's crying like he's a 5-year-old that has just been sent to the principal's office.
Exactly, like he just got put in timeout. What the hell was that, Scott? Exactly. He did get ejected from the game, rightfully so.
Oh, did we lose Chris?
No.
He froze up. He's got the thumbs up going.
Oh, there we go. Oh, he's back.
Yeah, I'm back. You guys just froze up on me on the screen here, but yeah, I don't know if it's my internet or if it's I don't know what the hell's going on, but I got to get through this quickly here before the whole thing just blows up on me. But it's not even a pet peeve, guys. I had to just bring that up. That this guy, I mean, he should be suspended for 6 games, 8 games, something. The league's got to do something. Incredible. Even if Damar Hamlin hadn't, like, we were less than a week from a guy's life being saved.
Well, Chris, it's interesting because I had something to talk about with that too, and I that shows this hypocrisy that goes on, and there's several. Damar Hamlin has exposed a massive hypocrisy in the NFL, and this is one of everybody was falling over themselves this past week to who's going to do something or say something nicer about Damar Hamlin, and I have no problem with that. Damar Hamlin, everything I've learned about the guy since then, he seems like an awesome guy, but it's all phony. All the love going out for him, everything, oh my God, the first responders, let's talk about them. It's all phony. When the rubber hits the road, here we are, like you said, 6 days later, and there's guys out on a football field shoving trainers around. And the thing that popped off to me this week, and this wasn't my original thought. I got this Instagram or Twitter or something. Is doesn't the NFL fan base and particularly the NFL media, don't you think we owe a huge apology to Tim Tebow right now? Because suddenly it's fine to pray on the football field, and suddenly, when a tragedy strikes, then it's fine and there's no mocking. Poor Tim Tebow. I'm not even a fan of the guy, but I just thought the mocking of him all those years ago was ridiculous. And again, this Damar Hamlin thing that's just exposed that as well, the hypocrisy of that, because you couldn't get enough media members and fans out there just hitting their knees and praying to God like they should have been. But same people who were mocking Tim Tebow, for deciding to live the way that he lives and outwardly showing, not in a time of tragedy, his commitment to that life. And I think it's revealing. It's revealing that this league has a lot of hypocrisy in it.
Yeah, no, it's a good call, Mike. Real quick, Scott, just because you in your pet peeve, Mike, you said you question the character of a lot of these players in the NFL, and we've watched this sport our whole lives, and it's chipped away more and more at me, just as a fan, and seeing that kind of display on, in that Green Bay game, I don't know how I would handle it if I'm, somebody making decisions on the Green Bay Packers, but I'd have a big problem with not suspending that guy, like a team suspension or doing something. That is unbelievable that this guy's shoving a trainer, and it wasn't accidental. It wasn't
looked at the guy and then
no, it was a full blown, just there was no question what this guy, I don't know what his intentions were other than being just a asshole.
And I think that's his second ejection in like the last 5 games, but
he has problems.
Mike, originally I was going to do a pet peeve on the whole, people falling all over themselves about Hamlin, especially when that opening game was the Chiefs and we had to listen to the first like 15 minutes be about that. And I stepped back from that. I said, you know what? This is unprecedented in the NFL. I'm going to let people have their way.
Yep.
But then there were other things in that Chiefs game that I could not overlook. And one of them was the discussion about Kadarius Toney, a former Giant. So Kadarius Toney ends up going into the end zone twice. One play was called back for a penalty. The second one he scored. And they can't just let it sit and say Kadarius Toney scored a touchdown and leave it at that. No, we have to go ahead and say Kadarius Toney, this young man, he just loves the sport of football. He's got a great attitude about the game. And I'm sitting there thinking, why do we have to add these superlatives to a guy who clearly 6 weeks ago could give a shit about the game of football or appeared to give the shit about the game of football, and he didn't have a great attitude. He was let go by a team that drafted him in the first round before he hit the end of his second season. That's not indicative of a guy who's got a great attitude.
A wide receiver starved team, by the way. I'm sorry, Scott, but
no, you're right. A wide receiver starved team. So that's not indicative of good attitude. So why all of a sudden this guy scores a touchdown and his attitude now becomes put in the spotlight as being a guy who's got a great attitude and the love of the game?
It's a great call.
It's what's happened all over, not just football, but sports media in general. It's gaslighting.
Yep.
And I don't know why. I don't know what the intention, the end goal of it is, but you have a guy who has a track record of one thing. So the Toney example is great. This guy faked injuries to not play the sport he loves so much in New York. Right. And now he just gets traded to another team and they throw him a pass and he catches it and scores a touchdown. And now he loves the game.
They're just having fun out there.
Yeah. They take a guy's weakness and it is well established negative. They take, and the minute he does anything that is good in a game, they pretend that the well-established weakness is a strength.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what the purpose of that is.
No. Like I said, you can't just say Kadarius Toney scores a touchdown and leave it at that.
Right. Right. I'll never get it. I mean, and it goes back probably further than this next example, but I immediately think of Ray Lewis. You know, Ray Lewis went through all his trouble, and you know, there's some people who think he killed somebody. I don't think he killed somebody, but he clearly was not a good dude, not doing things that good dudes do the night that all that went down. And the first time he gets a chance, it makes a play, you know, how the next season or whatever. Oh, he's dedicated his life to Christ. Oh, yeah, of course he did. He almost went to jail.
Right.
I mean, yeah, again, kind of touching back on my Tim Tebow thing. It's amazing how God comes into play when people get the shit scared out of them. But yeah, it's this thing, and I don't understand. There's this rush to redemption.
Yeah.
You know, they just can't wait to redeem somebody so much that they'll make it up when it's not happening.
Yeah. Good call.
No, great call.
My second one, actually, Cardone spurred this on because I had already thought about this, and then he sent a text on this. But Charles Davis during the game, he said this statement about after, you know, because we had a delay a game and then we had a second delay a game right after a timeout.
Jesus.
And he says, Charles Davis said the refs have tightened up delay a game all year long in the NFL. Are you shitting me? How many times have we seen the play clock hit negative 1, 2, 3?
Sits at zeros. Yeah.
And there's still flags that haven't come out.
His most comical comment about that was not only that they've tightened up. No, they haven't. So that first part was wrong. But then he said, now it's pretty standard across the league. No.
It's not. Again, just trotting out fallacies.
Yeah. Just things that aren't true. And that the second one, listen, it's inexcusable to let the clock get back down there. I'm not saying it was bad or anything. It's inexcusable. But man, they wanted to throw that second one so bad. That ref is like looking at the clock. Yeah. He's got one hand on the flag, like, oh, let me see a 0 so I can throw the second one. Because he's probably thinking the same thing. That there's no way I'm giving you a heartbeat on this one. You're getting this flag.
I tell you, my favorite part of that play was Dable just barking at a third string quarterback who's never started a game in his career. That was awesome. I'm like, look at Dable. I mean,
so when Davis Webb trucks a guy to get in the end zone, why isn't the announcer not going, he just loves this game. He carries a clipboard half the time, and he has a fervor for the game of football. Man. He's got such a great attitude. But we get that with Kadarius Toney.
Kadarius Toney, you get it.
That is such a great.
That is a great
call. 1-to-1 next to each other comparison. Exactly. What Davis Webb did, not just on that play, but particularly on that play, but in this whole game, that is just a guy. You can tell the comments they said he was making, you know, in the interviews up to the game, like he was just freaking thrilled.
Yeah.
And he was like, I love that they let him throw a bomb. I know they wanted to get him a touchdown. So he got one rushing and one passing. I mean, and you could see everyone, Barkley, Dable, everybody was excited for the guy. You know, it was cool.
I was thinking by the end of the game, I'm like, why is this guy not our second string quarterback?
Yeah. I know. Yeah.
I don't know if anyone else was thinking that, or maybe I'm crazy, or maybe I don't know. I need a bigger sample size, but I was by the end of the game, I'm like, why is this guy not number 2?
I'll tell you what, Webb looked good in the preseason.
He did.
For what that's worth. Yeah.
Well, this game was the only difference in this game was he was playing against the best team in the NFL, starters.
Right. Starters. Yeah.
With with a offensive line other than Neal, who was not starters, and receivers that somehow we have receivers on our roster who don't start. I don't even know how that's possible. But
I don't know.
I don't think David Sills got a catch in this game. So he's just completely fallen off the radar.
He's vaccinated.
So we have a lot of questions to get to.
Oh God.
First one, my friend Bruce, and he said, I'll, you know, as long as you humor me, I'll stop bugging you. But what are your favorite superstitions for a game? I'll start with Chris on that one.
Oh man. Well, you guys know, I mean, a couple things. I don't watch Graham Gano's field goals. You know, that's one little thing.
That's off the top.
Right.
Man.
So as Gano, who's been
put it this way, you don't watch any field goals.
I'll watch the opponent's field goals.
Oh.
But you know, so I don't know that I have like a game day superstition. I mean, but one thing, it's weird. I do this I'll on certain plays, especially if I'm watching at home, I'll literally like do my DVR and pause certain plays in the middle of it and do it like almost in like slow motion. So for some reason, superstitiously, I feel like I have more control of the play if I actually pause it, slow it down, and watch the outcome. I feel
so like Jones is uncorks one and you stop it as soon as it leaves his hand. It's just
I'm actually or the ball will be in midair and I'm thinking like, okay, it looks like the receiver's open. I can't tell. Is he gonna catch it? And then like I'll play it and like, yeah, I'll do stupid things like that sometimes.
That's
just
awesome.
with the like on the DVR. So I have a lot of superstitions with like the DVR and how I watch the game sometimes, and it's weird. I'm not consistent with that every game, but like there's certain games that I get a feel for that. So I don't know if I can call it a consistent superstition, but as you guys know, I haven't. I told you when I was at home for Christmas watching the Viking game. I can't watch the field goals. So one of my nephews said, "So you haven't watched our best player the whole year?" I'm like, "No, I guess I haven't. I don't even know what number Gano is."
That's great. I have I'm always superstitious about what I'm wearing. And I'll if I have something I really like and I've worn it once and we get a loss, I will hold that until we're playing a game I really think we're going to win, and then I'll bring it back out and try to bring some luck into it. So there's definitely that goes way back. But I've got a new one here that's come up these last couple of years, and it actually started with Michigan, and it's my wife found a mac and cheese recipe, and she made it 2 years ago on the day Michigan beat Ohio State. So I've had her make that mac and cheese every big Michigan game and Giants game since. Like she made it for the Colts game. So I'm not overdoing it. I'm just like, if we need it.
What about TCU?
Yeah, I didn't have her make it then. I thought we didn't need it. TCU should have made it this week.
Oh man, they needed a lot of help.
Yeah, so it's what I'm wearing in the mac and cheese.
I'm a little bit like you with the wearing stuff. So I have the Hampton jersey on right now, and I've been wearing Hampton because we've been on a roll. So I haven't moved off of that. I don't really have any other. I used to like look at the alignment of my remote control. I'd have it on the floor in front of me, and if it was crooked, I'd be like, "Whoa!" And I'd have to. It was more of an ADHD thing, I think, than anything else. When I was younger and I grew up in upstate New York, there were two channels that used to have the Giants game on. It was channel 12 and channel 3. And if the Giants were doing bad on 3, I'd flip it over to 12.
Yeah, I've gone to a different room to watch on a different TV. I've done that since I was a kid too. Like, I would have been upstairs in the house I grew up in, and the Giants are getting their ass kicked at halftime. So I'd shut that down. I'd go downstairs into the den and turn that TV on and watch the rest of the game down there. That has a surprisingly good track record. Switching TV.
Yeah, same with me too.
Yeah.
I flip it over to 12. All of a sudden, the Giants would be doing well, and I just leave it on there,
Yeah.
And then every now and then, I'd accidentally hit it back. I'd be like, "No, what did I do?"
God, what station was on?
Yeah, which one you're on?
All right, so we got three questions from our resident Cowboy fan. So much like we had the start bench cut on the quarterbacks, start bench cut Tiki, Saquon, and Joe Morris. So I'll start with Chris on this one.
Wow. Tiki, Saquon, and Morris. Oh man. That's a tough one.
That is a tough one.
That's really tough because there's no obvious cut, I don't think. I mean, I'm probably cut start. What is it again? Cut start. What's
start bench cut?
Start bench cut. I mean, Joe Morris played on some great teams. I'm probably starting Saquon just because I think I don't know, maybe there's just the sheer talent. I think I think I might just go with Saquon Barkley to start. This is going to sound crazy. I think I'm benching Morris. I love it. I mean, Joe Morris was one of my favorite Giants. I had so many favorite Giants on that '86 team and that era. And just because Tiki's just a douchebag, I'm cutting his ass, I think. Just because
I still remember Joe Morris running out of his shoe and scoring a touchdown.
Yeah. Yeah,
Never
I'm probably
seen that
gonna have to
before
cut
or
Tiki.
since from a Giant.
Yeah.
So I
Definitely can't cut to either one of the other two. So I mean, Tiki, I love Tiki when he was at his prime in like 05 and 06 around there before he cut his own his retirement short, whatever. But Tiki, his comments and just his smugness and his bullshit, yeah, I'm cutting his ass.
Yeah, I agree with the cut 100%. It's Tiki. I will end friendships over people talking shit about Eli Manning. So Tiki is cut without a question. And same thing, Chris. Of course, he was awesome. Once he cured the fumbling thing, he was off the charts. It was unbelievable. But
Yeah.
I'm cutting him. And then I'm gonna change your other two. I'm gonna start Joe Morris as my plotter. And then I'm bringing Saquon in late in the game to hit my home run, or I'm bringing him in off the bench on third down or something. So I'm going to go start Morris, bench Saquon, and cut Tiki.
Yep.
So now I originally, when I saw this question, I was going to start Tiki without any question, just because he was the most consistent running back I'd ever seen wear a Giant uniform. But then I started thinking about his personality, and I came to the same conclusion you guys did. And I demoted him and cut him. And I went with Saquon as the starter just because I see Saquon as a healthy running back being the best running back we've ever had. Mm-hmm. And so on that merit alone, I would do that. Now, I love Joe Morris just like you guys did. Joe Morris, to me, was a beneficiary of having an excellent offensive line.
Yeah.
And he was a plucky guy. I mean, he was a guy that could, back then we didn't really have a ground attack. So he just was the guy that would get the quick hitter every once in a while. But when he did, I mean, the guy would take the ball off, go around end and go 50 yards. And you'd be like, oh, wow. All right.
Yeah.
And Morris was never a pass receiving back. We never threw to our running backs back then in the Sims era. I mean, a lot of teams didn't, I guess, at that.
We just put Megan in when we wanted to do that.
Morris was not. He was one dimensional to me. Morris. He had a couple great years, but that's why I started Saquon over Morris.
You could pluck some other running backs in there and still make that question interesting, like Meggett and OJ.
Yeah,
for sure. The guy who asked the question
Hampton
there
too.
Roddy Hampton.
Hampton. Come on, hey.
The guy who asked the question there knows I had a Superman crush on Otis Anderson. I just thought he was the coolest freaking running back ever. And I met him in person and he insulted me, but that's a story for another day.
There you go.
You told that on a podcast season 1.
Yeah.
So the second question he had, and I think we probably all will be in agreement on this. Was it a mistake to bench the starters against Philly? I'll tell you this. There's a lot of differences between this game and the Patriots game from years ago. First off, the Eagles were not undefeated going for a historic season. Second off, there was no real moral victory to be had to play our starters. So I am completely on board with resting our starters for that game.
Yeah. Without question, it was the right decision. There was no way in hell we should have been playing our starters in that game. So I was obviously overjoyed by Daboll's and the coaching staff's decision to not start anybody. So it was absolutely the right call. Can you imagine had anybody, I don't care, and I'm not even talking about Jones or Barkley, anybody of significance going down in that game for no reason. It would have been nice to beat Philly and all that, but you're right, Scott. It was so different back in that 07 season with Coughlin and going up against the undefeated Patriots. It paled in comparison this game, and I didn't see there any point in starting anybody against Philly.
No. I'll say this: I think had the Patriots not been undefeated, I think Coughlin benches at least some of the starters in that game. Coughlin was just trying to make sure that the Patriots were an honest 17-0. That's all. He was just he was just trying to do his part for NFL history, and win, lose or draw, the Patriots are going to earn it. I think that was what that was more about than anything else. I'll say this about the benching of starters and not. I think there are so many intricate differences in each team, and I just think you got to trust that your coach has his finger on the pulse of the team and what the right decision is. Because there's no boilerplate answer. I don't think you can say definitively 100% it's always a mistake to bench your starters when you don't need to, or you can't say it's always a mistake to play them. I think every team and coach kind of knows coming into the game what he has to do. In this case, and this is the way Dable took it and played it and called it, the Giants got a free bye week.
Yeah.
And they're about the only team that did that. They got a full bye week. I mean, they didn't even start their backup quarterback in the game. So, so if you're one of the believers that getting the bye is an important thing, well, the Giants basically have had a bye here. I think that's kind of hard to pass up.
Yep. And then the final question, and I think this is an easy one too, because Mike and I have talked about this before, but would you take a Super Bowl win and miss the playoffs for the next 10 years? I said that in 2011. I said I'd take a Super Bowl win and miss the next 10 years of playoffs, and we did.
Yeah.
That's interesting to ask that to Giants fans, because that's typically about what happens to us. So.
I know.
Well, I mean, actually, a Dallas Cowboy fan should want that. The Dallas Cowboys haven't sniffed the Super Bowl since what, the early 90s, 94, 95?
95.
So, I mean, he's had multiple playoff runs, actually multiple playoff appearances, no runs. And we're going on almost 30 years.
I mean, the equivalent I can say, and of course I agree. We've talked about it before. Yeah, definitely. The championship, it just supersedes everything when you have a championship. You can, and this might not be a great example, because a lot of people like, maybe, if you hate the Yankees, I love the Yankees, so I grew up a Yankee fan, and so they've had a lot of championships, obviously, in their history, but they make the playoffs every year, the Yankees, and people. It's almost, I always kind of refer to them as sort of like the Cowboys of Major League Baseball, where
a lot of people
everyone just like, I know, Mike, but I'm just more in terms of they win all the time. They win every year and they're a favorite to win. They don't.
No.
I'd rather have, it's been like they've won one They've won one World Series
2009
since 2000.
Yeah.
So I'd rather have at least one more World Series in all their playoff appearances and fucking getting beat by the Astros and everybody, Tigers, a couple, I'd rather have the championship. It supersedes the playoff appearances. Yeah.
I think there's so many. I hope Scott will remember this, but when we grew up, the Super Bowl win was everything.
Yeah.
It was everything. I mean, it almost like voided the next year. It's like it was a victory lap the next year. It's absolutely everything. And I would absolutely take a championship for 10 years of no playoffs if I could make that deal. It's just it's historic. It's it's everything you want. Now I remember like 2 years after the Giants won in 2007, probably about when we were getting ready to win again. Scott and I on the BBI football message board were on there, and there were people who wanted Coughlin gone at that time, and the one of the arguments was, great, he won us a Super Bowl. What has he done for us lately? I'm like, are you shitting me?
Yeah.
I mean, we all made fun of the guy, but it's like, you're talking about, Sir Edmund Hillary. Oh yeah, he climbed Mount Everest once. What's he done since then? It's like. I just don't get that how you can win a championship, especially in the NFL. And I'd say the other one I think is equally or maybe even more difficult is NCAA basketball, and care about and really have to be concerned about your job 2 years later. That's insanity to me.
Oh yeah.
When they Giants won, especially the second one, like in my mind, Tom Coughlin would be the coach of the Giants until he's 106 years old if he wanted to be.
Yeah, if he died on the field at halftime.
Yeah.
I'm good with that.
Yeah. So I know that popular culture right now is more of a what have you done for me lately thing, but I would totally make that deal.
All right. So
I have made the deal. I believe I got out of my hands.
You and I both
knees.
talked about that in 2011. We said I'd take a Super Bowl here if we had 10 years of shitty football.
Yeah.
And we didn't know it would come true. It did.
Yeah.
So we are the Three Angry Giant fans. Hit us up at angry_3. Bring us questions and bring us questions other than just our Dallas fan. So we can.
But he shouldn't stop though. Those
No,
are
no,
good
no. They're
questions.
good. They are good questions.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. He might be lamenting a loss coming up on Monday night anyway. So we both could be sitting here. Regardless, win or lose, we will be back next week to talk about the playoff action. We'll be with you through the end of the playoff season and the Super Bowl, and then after that, we'll take some time off before the draft and free agency. But
unlike Sean McVay and Marcus Mariota and Derek Carr,
Mm-hmm.
we've made a commitment.
We're dedicated, committed.
So we are the Three Angry Giant Fans. Your host Scott, Giant Mike, and Cardone, and we will be back to break down the Minnesota game with whatever happens next week.
Let's go Blue. Let's get a win. Come on.
Go Blue.
Go Blue. Let's go.